People, I'm alive and COVID-free. That's right. You got Chris and me in person this time.
Yeah.
We're back. Talking TV in the flesh.
COVID-free.
What was the last time we did this?
Before you had COVID.
It was the community tier rankings. It was the community tier rankings. That's what it was.
Right.
We were sitting here
January
doing
early.
the tier rankings similar to AJ to what you did with Lost with him. We did that with community.
We pretty much took that idea.
Surprise,
Thank you for a good
surprise!
idea,
The first 3 seasons
No problem.
were A+. What do we say the highest one was? Cool. Was that the highest one?
Yeah, cool.
It got the cool. A+ made her all three of the first 3 seasons. So.
Yeah, go check that video out on our channel, as well as check out many other videos we have and our guests. Dom, introduce our guests.
Yes, we're doing WandaVision tonight. First off, the latest episode. I have some thoughts on. That's why my intro should include you guys in. We have 2 guests tonight, another 2 guests. I'm loving the twofers. We're really doing well with those this season. So we've got returning guests, of course, AJ of AJ Reacts. AJ, how you been? Thanks for being here. Thanks for coming back.
Thanks for having me. It's going to be a good time. This was a very interesting episode, and I'm ready to get into it.
First of the new year, too,
Absolutely.
of AJ's appearance on our channel.
Yeah, dude.
First of many.
We miss having you on, dude. It's good to have you back. And first timer to the channel, live from Ontario, Canada, Mr. Ewan of Ewan Reviews. What's going on, dude?
Well, I'm really excited to talk about this episode. This show was so interesting, and thank you so much for having me on. It was fun. Like, I met you guys through Brandon, and now we're here like 2 or 3 months later. It's so cool.
Yeah, fellow Canadian.
Yes.
So, quick question, to keep it in Canada for a quick second before we jump to New Jersey.
Yeah.
Who has the better poutine? What? Is it your area or is it Brando's out all the way on the West Coast?
Well, I'd probably say here, like, I'm not even the biggest fan of poutine, but like, I haven't even been out there, but I've just heard from many people it's like Ontario, Quebec is just like the best. Although Brandon could probably disagree with me, but I'm not sure. That's just from what I've heard. Ontario and Quebec are like the reigning champs.
Yeah, not that I know too much of my Canadian geography, but I'm East Coast till I die, no matter where we are.
Yeah,
so I'm inclined to agree with you.
I'm inclined to believe you just based on the fact that he mentioned Quebec in that statement. So
exactly. Hell yeah, dude.
That's what immediately gives him the edge there.
Welcome to the show, bro. This is gonna be a good show, guys. Tonight, if you're here hanging out with us, let us know your thoughts on this episode. Chime in, join in on the conversation. We finally have a lot to talk about. There were a few slogs throughout the course of the show, but we have quickly surpassed that, it seems. We're in the thick of it. So, Dom, unless you have anything else to hit at the top of the show.
All right. So, the recap section, people. Sorry, I had to do that for dramatic effect. Totally wasn't an accident. All right. The episode entitled All New Halloween Spooktacular. Episode 6 overall of the show, WandaVision, directed once again by Matt Shakman, who's directing all 9 episodes, and written by Chuck Hayward and Peter Cameron. The show is set flash forwards this time to a 1990s/early 2000s setting. Wanda is trying to childproof a very rapidly growing Billy and Tommy, who now are starting to experience some superpowers, going through a typical, sitcom hijinks there, the usual stuff, in order to prepare for their first Halloween together as a family. The episode takes place over the course of one night during Halloween. But Vision, coming down in his extremely goofy-looking retro costume, instead states that he is going to leave them with their Uncle Pietro, still portrayed officially by returning Evan Peters from the Fox X-Men universe, and says that he's going to join the neighborhood watch. Wanda, of course, exchanges glances with him, but Vision exchanges a glance back, saying, "No, I'm onto your secret now, and you're not going to use that to control me, and I'm going to do what I want with it." What will it lead to? We shall find out. Meanwhile, outside of the shield, what's it called? Monica and Jimmy Woo are attempting to once again protest against the agent in charge. What is his name? Hayward. Director Hayward. Oh, man. Those names. So many names. But unfortunately, Hayward thinks that they have been compromised because, of course, they're too close to the superheroes. And the superheroes can't be trusted. Once again, just proving, he's the General Ross stand-in. So I'm like, okay, is this how the Thunderbolts are going to factor into this show? I don't know. There are so many different connections we got to get to. We got to save that for the last section overall. But unfortunately, they are arrested, but they manage to surprisingly take down their guards and sneak back in. And Darcy begins to do some hacking into S.H.I.E.L.D. overall, and eventually discovers that Director Hayward is actually tracking Vision's vibranium. Why? We shall find out. Maybe at some later point. Vision arrives at the edge of the S.H.I.E.L.D. while Pietro, Wanda, and the two boys are going throughout the Halloween festival, and the boys are activating their powers. Tommy, of course, is revealed to be a speedster, like his uncle, and Billy, meanwhile, is revealed to be able to hear other people's thoughts from far away, potentially lead to some of their powers later in the Young Avengers line as Wiccan and Speed. But during the course of their night, Pietro starts to question Wanda just about like why it is that she's doing this, what brought her here. Is this a suggestion that he is an illusion, or is this continued reference to the fact that he is a crossover from the multiverse? But unfortunately, it's all for naught because Vision successfully makes it to the edge of the shield. Let me just give the MCU compliment right now. If there is one positive thing that I will say about this episode, which it will probably shock you what I think about this episode overall, it is that I really enjoyed how they structured the third act of this episode, like how they centered it all around Vision. And I'm like, yes, because man, I don't know what it is. I think this is just the sick, twisted human beings inside all of us, but there was something so satisfying about seeing that android just get gutted. Like, I don't know what it is.
Speak for yourself.
I don't know what it is.
I'm not going to corroborate that.
Like the most amount of time that we feel anything for Vision is when he's just getting ripped apart. And I just
the MCU
wanted
puts
to
him in that situation a lot.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's on them. They purposefully do it that in order to like get that emotional response out of that. But I just wanted to point that out because it was pretty funny. Anyways, he makes it to the edge of the shield wall, noticing, of course, that certain civilians are frozen, presumably by the effects of Wanda's spell. And he sees a familiar face, Agnes, portrayed by Kathryn Hahn. In her one attempt to show off in this episode, he uses his Mind Stone powers to free her from Wanda's control. And she says, of course, some very cryptic lines. Are we dead? He says, no. Why would you think that? So the trail line, because you are. How does she know that he's dead? But then she starts mumbling some crazy nonsense. And he unfortunately has to put her back under in order to get her to shut up. And of course, she just turns her car around and leaves. But he makes it to the edge of the shield. And he starts to push his way through. And he almost makes it through, just as Monica and Jimmy make it back. But unfortunately, they are about to go to another agent friend of theirs. They manage to escape, but unfortunately, Darcy is caught by Hayward. And just as Vision makes it out, surrounded by the military vehicles that have driven up at his presence, unfortunately being torn apart by the presence of the shield, Billy, inside the shield, senses his father's distress call, which causes Wanda to blast Pietro to the side, freeze everyone, and use her powers to raise the effects of the Westview shield, transfiguring everything around it into the setting in which it is inside the force field. Of course, that being this weird 90s/2000s setting. Everyone attempts to drive away. Monica and Jimmy are fortunately out of harm's way long enough before the shield rises, but unfortunately, all of the soldiers that are close to the edge of the shield get enveloped, unfortunately, including Darcy. So is Darcy dead? Probably not, but we shall see, especially since, she was already confirmed for another MCU property. Damn it, Marvel! You're even doing it with your TV properties now? Come on!
I think Darcy got the ultimate fan experience, because if you remember, she was really into the show that was happening, and now she literally gets to be on set.
Yeah.
Like, good for her.
Yeah, pretty much.
But unfortunately, maybe her mind will be wiped when she...
Oh, her mind is definitely wiped.
So she won't be able to enjoy it the way she...
But here's the thing. They brought her in at the perfect... I understand now why they brought her in. They brought her in literally just so that they could insert her for when she came into relevance in sitcoms. And so they can use her to spoof on herself.
It's like being...
That is the ultimate mind fuck.
That's interesting. There. That's interesting. I didn't think about it like that.
I can't think of a bigger mind fuck than that. I'm sorry. I have to put that out there.
Did you guys enjoy her show?
Insane.
Two Broke Girls? Did you guys enjoy her show?
I haven't gotten around to seeing it yet, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I will say, though,
it's decent.
Darcy being in the show and not remembering it is like getting blackout drunk and meeting a celebrity. It's like, did you actually meet them? You know what I mean? Like, you can go to like their bar that they frequent, and that'd be the night you run into them too. Is the one night that you're just like not gonna remember.
It's gonna be one of those nights. I can already tell.
This is gonna be one of those nights.
I can't wait. Oh, I'm so happy. I'm so happy. We kind of been on like an upward roll of this for the last couple of weeks, and now it's like we're fully in like just no fucks given mode. I love it. So. Yeah, that's pretty much all that happened. Unfortunately, here's the thing. If I just can voice kind of one complaint that I have, just that I need to get off the bat, it certainly felt like another one of those episodes where it felt like a lot was happening, But in hindsight, really not that much happened. Like, okay, Vision can get out of the shield, but he is somehow drawn in. But Wanda can't sense when he goes out of the shield, but her kid can. Like, it's answering all these questions, and I'm like, oh, I get it. But it's unfortunate. I hate to keep doing this, Chris. I really hate it because this horse has been down and battered and kicked so many times. But it's doing the Lost thing where it brings up new mysteries in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
And I'm like...
It is bringing up a lot of questions.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. And I'm like, come on, dude. Give us... I'm like, no, give us an interesting story. Don't just set us up for more cliffhangers just to keep us invested. I'm like, look, there's only 3 episodes left. We're gonna watch them. Like, can we get some answers now, please? Like,
as Michael Scott once said, reaching, but you'll get there. Anyways, before we dive into it, AJ and Ewan, we'll start with AJ, then we'll go to Ewan. Where's your head been at so far in this show so we can give the viewers a little context? We have Luke rolling into the chat. I'm sure he'd want to know what's going on, Luke. So let us know what you've been thinking about this season so far.
Yeah, so when the season started, episode 1 and 2 dropped at the same time. I was feeling it, but also at the same time, they were really giving us nothing. And that was frustrating me. It took me a minute to really, think back and like, I had to take a step back. I'm like, okay, this is a show. This is going to be coming out from week to week. There's 9 episodes. We got to take it easy. I feel like we are really spoiled as Marvel fans. Like we have it right then, right now. We had to wait like a year between Infinity War and Endgame, but basically everything was handed to us right then and there. So, we're kind of spoiled a little bit. So seeing it from week to week, seeing how everything pans out, it had some getting used to, but I'm there. I'm ready for it each week, and I'm loving this journey. So yeah.
Hell yeah.
I feel like each episode is getting better and better. That's me personally. I know some people don't really feel that way, but honestly, I think it's getting better and better each week.
No, for sure. Ewan, man, how you been feeling about the season so far?
When it first dropped, I was like, okay, this is actually really good. It surprised me. And then when I thought back on it, I was like, I still really enjoy it. I just, like, for my ratings, like, I just bumped it down just a little bit. But as you said, most episodes, I think, got better and better. Like, the first 2 were really good. And then 3 was great. 4 was, like, so, like, different and very more, like, MCU, like what you expect, seeing from the MCU. And then 5 was, in my opinion, still the best one. And then this one, I also really enjoyed. Sure, there were definitely some problems, but overall, I think the show has been actually really surprising. I've liked it even more than I expected. And I mean, I love these characters. Vision is a great character, and Wanda is actually my favorite female superhero maybe ever, but for sure in the MCU. Like, that's just how I feel. Like, I love Black Widow, but she's up there. I've loved her ever since... I mean, I loved her in Age of Ultron, but like Civil War is just fantastic. It might be my favorite MCU movie. So the show overall really focusing and kind of diving in on her. Maybe she's the villain. There's stuff like that. It proposes questions, which, like I want the answers to. Like this one definitely was like, okay, come on, tell us more. But overall, I mean, the show has been pretty great so far.
Well put.
Yeah. I mean, I guess kind of the lack of definitive roadmap on this show helped overall, I will say, as far as kind of we're the mysterious show. So we can like kind of string you along with like these weirdo like Twilight Zone-esque episodes disguised as old sitcoms. And yeah, you'll keep watching it because even like that baseline anticipation of mystery is good. It's funny because I heard this on a podcast and it was so smart that I have to recite it here, which is that the MCU ultimately time benefited them because with the decision to, obviously, without the benefit of hindsight at the time, to put this out ahead of Falcon and Winter Soldier, which after viewing those Super Bowl trailers are like, would have been the safest possible bet. Like as far as, okay, you want to get people right back into the MCU with a straight up action series that's basically gonna be Bad Boys meets like, what like
Falcon and Winter Soldier,
pretty much. Yeah,
right.
Basically. There you go. Like that's the easiest way, and that would have been so easy to put out first. But the fact that they took this risk and ultimately got this, and WandaVision is turning up this much discussion week to week, like pretty much the same amount that the Mandalorian got, like equivalent to the previews of the Marvel movies. That's good for them.
Basically,
so
for sure,
long term, this ultimately worked out. But as far as speaking to this specific episode, I'm not gonna lie. So I've been noticing a very similar trend that I've had with the show. Obviously, the two different shows. First was The Boys. Secondly, it was Watchmen. What do those two shows have in common? They're both pretty obvious. They're all superhero shows like that are made kind of in the post Disney Plus era, for lack of a better word. So, what's it called? Both those seasons had, The Boys had 8 episodes. Watchmen had 9. This has 9. So Watchmen, we were to the 5th episode. We didn't know all the answers, but we had like a decent enough idea of the world, kind of, right? And we kind of knew enough about what was going on. And then by the time we got to episode 6, it started to answer more of our questions. And I'm noticing a very similar trend with WandaVision, and it's lending itself to that because rather than having each episode focus on a different character in the ensemble cast and relating that back to like an element of the original comic, which gave that so much more context, WandaVision is kind of just leaning into itself and the MCU lore of it. And they're using kind of the sitcom formula as a structure within which to disseminate the story. The problem, which we have gone over with probably since day one, is that this to me is not a story, not that cannot necessarily be sustained for a week-to-week basis, but feels like it's starting to feel drawn out. And feels like it's starting to get to the point where it's like, okay, we're just going to start introducing mysteries in order to kind of string you guys along. And I'm like, okay. Mm-hmm. Episode 5 was a giant game changer, and I was ready for something big. And for this to be the follow-up, for just more mystery, more context, a little tease at what's to come, I'm like, oh, this could not have been more filler if it tried. I hate to use that term, but I've not felt this way. I'm saying it.
I might not agree with you on that.
I don't care. I needed to get it out. I feel
like this was the opposite of filler. I just feel like this was opposite of filler. I feel like the first couple episodes were more filler than this. We got some
necessary context to set up.
It was necessary. Well, I understand that. I'm just saying I feel like those were more filler-esque than this one because we got a lot of interactions between our characters. We know more now. I also feel like what was I gonna say? I feel like Vision is kind of coming into his own. He's having his own thoughts and things like that. And it just doesn't. It didn't feel like filler. I feel like that's the last word I would use for this episode.
Same, yeah. Really. So clearly we're in the positives and negatives section. Started in the negatives. I
sorry. I had to get it off my chest at first.
No, that's fine. I it's strange. I see points on both sides. So I guess I'll just tell you guys where. Dude, did you plan that? Because that's literally what's happening with the Vision right now.
He didn't plan that.
The Vision is literally trying to break through, man. That's insane. So
give me a sec.
Wow. No worries, man. Dude. No worries. But with
that was crazy.
With that being said, I just want to say
only that stuff can happen live. I'm sorry.
Hey, we're doing it live, man. That's the name of the game.
That was awesome.
That was great.
So, basically, I see points on both sides. So, in regards to Dom's point, because we haven't established our voice yet for the show, we kind of keep jumping around, and I think at this point, having what they think, at least, I think, here, let me rephrase this, I think that they think it's sufficient enough to hit us with a different decade, with a different thematic sitcom, and slowly in the dialogue of that sitcom, ramp up the fact that Wanda sort of has everyone under their control. We read the synopsis. I think they think that is enough. I don't think that's enough. In fact, I think that there's an issue with that because when we get the tone, then we're thrown back into a different sitcom of the decade, so we don't go back to something that's familiar. But to say that we got filler this episode, to me, isn't right because we clearly have the Vision who's waking up and who's defying the script, right? He's going against the lines Wanda gave him. He literally pushed through the barrier. We had that moment where whatever his name is, Quicksilver or whatever, turned zombie
Pietro.
Out of nowhere. Pietro, sorry. And so it's like, I just feel like there's a tonal issue, but we're still pushing the storyline forward. But to me, it doesn't feel that strong because of this show kind of being maybe a little too big for its britches, as some would say.
Okay. All right.
What do you guys think about that?
I can get on board with. That I can get on board with.
But what do you guys think?
Like, I kind of get what you're saying. For me, like, if this makes sense, it kind of like half felt like filler and half didn't, because there's a lot that like, sure, it like it like moved forward kind of, but also just kept, I don't know, like it just kept the mysteries and adding them up. Like we had Pietro, holy God, they're like introduced at the end with the door. So it's like, oh, cool. What are they going to do with them? Sure, they have some fun stuff. He has fun with the kids, but I mean, there's little things with Wanda, but nothing major happens. Like we see Vision kind of start to make his way out of there, which we can talk about later because I have something interesting to say about that. But there's that. But I also see the whole like I can see how it's moving forward, but it also was filler because nothing major happened. Like there were no big questions, I think, that were exactly answered. Like I know that AJ probably disagrees with me. Yes, Vision can get out, but like even the stuff with Agnes was like so built up even in the trailers, and then it was like a very small scene in my opinion, obviously.
Keep in mind it's episode 6, but I know what you mean.
Yeah. I don't usually watch the trailers each week.
Yeah.
I just kind of go in there fresh.
Oh yeah,
me neither.
Yeah,
I just watched like the
you were
trailer,
talking
not
about
the promo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the
I didn't know
promos.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't watch those. I just like the big trailer. I remember like seeing stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha. I didn't know they did
Yeah.
trailers each week. That to me is
They do
the
those.
worst thing you could
They do.
ever
It's-
imagine.
It's for like
Stupid.
immediately after on like it's like you know how whenever you would watch it on TV they would have that on TV.
Like
shows?
HBO does that type of stuff.
Yeah, HBO
Okay.
does that. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Give you
Yeah.
it's like for the week to week premise. I'll give you like a little taste of like next week.
See, I feel like that taints the experience.
Really,
Just a
Because
little
they
bit.
choose-
Yeah.
I
Because
didn't
People
mind
love
think
that,
about what
though.
Ewan just said.
I don't
like,
mind that.
They
Some people
showed that
love it.
moment.
That doesn't bother me.
and so they showed that, yeah, I guess, but like, and that's true, but like for Ewan, I think it tainted his opinion, and like,
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong, but like you thought that was going to be so huge, but then it's
Yeah.
just this tiny little moment.
Yeah,
I
like I
feel
thought
like
it was
that
going to be
kinda,
a
like,
lot more
I'll get-
important.
See, that's funny. I'll get to that, but no, yeah. Weirdly enough, okay. So here's what I'll say about this. So my positives of this episode, if I can get to that, as far as kind of maintaining my part of the section overall, I kind of got to my overall dislike.
Well, before we jump positives, does anyone have any more rebuttals to that last sort of like,
Oh, yeah.
Dom sort of
Yeah.
idea of like how he viewed the show in regards to like the filler
Yeah,
and stuff?
no,
Because I feel like there was more conversation to be had there.
I'll bring more to that as we go on because I want to like kind of like discuss that as we like break down the episode further.
All
But I guess just kind of like the fact that, so to me, Vision and Pietro are the scene stealers here just because like I missed Evan Peters, and like Evan Peters, this episode just proved more so that Evan Peters should have been in the MCU to begin with. But then again, he was also saved from a much more cruel fate because good God, how they butchered him in Age of Ultron. Oh, and not just in the way they killed him, in the way they metaphorically killed him.
Yeah.
But that was the harshest death to come out of that movie. But
Yep.
But this episode proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that Evan Peters should have been here in the first place, but he makes up quickly for lost time.
Yeah.
Like it's only been,
I agree.
the funny thing is that everyone forgets that it's only been 2 years since he was last in an X-Men movie because yes, he did actually have a part in Dark Phoenix.
Dark Phoenix.
He
yeah.
was in
Totally
that movie
small part.
for
Like a
3
very-
scenes.
Yeah.
I counted it. 3
Yeah.
scenes he's in that movie, and he's still the best thing about that movie.
I really
That is-
forgot that he was in it.
Yeah,
too.
that is sad.
Yeah.
But
That's
he makes
so
up for
sad.
lost time here. Kind of, and it's funny because Wanda to me was the least interesting part about this episode. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because of the fact that, like, because she's progressing through the sitcoms is forcing her to, like, be less expressive as time goes on and she's forced to become more modern. That irony, I actually think is kind of really impressive how they pull that off. But she's the least impressive character by design. I'm not going to lie, though, the stuff with the kids, I don't know. Cute kid stuff has never bothered me with this kind of stuff. And, like, seeing them with superpowers, I don't know.
Well, it was Malcolm in the
It
Middle.
was kind of nostalgic. It was a little
Yeah.
bit throwing it back to
It
like
was-
Spy Kids and Shark Boy and Lava Girl for me.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm nostalgic.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm nostalgic
Exactly.
about
Exactly.
that shit. And
No,
that was
they-
a lot of fun. And how they were like utilizing the story. Like I was like, Tommy was bonding with Uncle Pietro. It's just like, oh my God, like would we
So-
ever have gotten this
Feeling the
like
candy.
otherwise?
To elaborate more
yeah.
on what I said earlier, like, yeah, I agree with all that because I think they do a good job immersing you in the sitcom of the week. I just
Mhm.
think they do a poor job establishing how that factors into like the overall tone of the show.
I think
So
that
I'm so
this was the
conflicted every
think
time
that
I
this
watch
was
this
the
damn
first
show.
time that I noticed that. I think that's why because like they didn't really have like a definitive set tone. Like they kind of like tried to take the 90s and the 2000s and
Yeah,
merge them
yeah,
into
that
one
they merged
episode.
them.
That
merged
I,
them.
I was so thrown
Because-
off by that.
Even musically, they start off with like kind of like that 90s like bounce down
But
like
they're doing
guitar,
it with,
and
like,
then
a
they have
2000s
like
camera style, like they're moving it.
But
like
then
the
they have,
camera
like-
work was never that fluid back then.
right, that's true. And then they have like a hip hop kind of like sitcom-y like modern hip hop like trap beat later on, and it's like nothing here is
Yeah,
lining
like,
up unless
what
that
is
was the point.
happening?
Unless they want to show that it's progressing even further and faster, which I think could be something. But if
Yeah.
they did, it didn't translate. I
Right.
don't think it translated
Right,
well.
that's
to
something
me.
that I have a feeling won't come back until later episodes. But
Yeah,
with that being said,
and with that, okay, real quick, I did want to point out, speaking of like merging the two decades, I feel like wasn't the Parent Trap in the 90s, right? Parent Trap came out in the 90s.
And The Incredibles,
And then The Incredibles came out in the 2000s. And both
Did you
of
notice
those
that on the
movies-
marquee?
Oh
I was
shit!
so confused.
Those
Oh
are the two
fuck!
movies.
You're right.
I was so
Wait,
confused
okay,
there.
so
Lindsay Lohan.
Yeah.
Wait, the Lindsay
Good catch,
Lohan one?
AJ.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, the Lindsay Lohan one would have had to be. Yeah, that was '98.
That's 90s.
You're
Yeah.
right.
And then when was The Incredibles?
2004.
2004.
Like 4? Yep.
Oh, so
I
it's
was-
mixed
When
up
I
in
saw
their
that, I
head.
was so
Oh,
confused.
God.
I was like,
Okay.
why
Yo,
that doesn't make
good
sense at all.
Right.
And I'm not gonna lie. I saw that and I fooled myself because for a second I thought Parent Trap and I thought Mean Girls, and that's what. And that's what I
That is
was
same
reading.
here.
I
different.
read the Parent Trap and I
Yeah.
thought Mean Girls.
Yeah.
2004.
So,
That makes perfect
so
sense.
Incredibles, you have, a superhero family, which,
Old
and then Parent Trap, you have twins, and they're both Disney.
Oh,
So you
wow.
kinda-
Whoa,
Yeah.
we're getting
Whoa.
deep now.
Damn, that's kind of like
Yeah.
some Pixar type
this,
shit.
Yeah, this is hardcore.
Yeah.
Like that's just straight up like messing with our minds now. This
Yeah.
is like we're just gonna put Easter eggs within Easter eggs within. We're gonna make J.J. Abrams' mystery box look like a friggin' like cardboard box.
No,
that
you
was
know,
the best until I could come up with this.
And
time.
this is like another one that's kind of like that. Did you guys pick up on when the kid was like kick A and then she said kick A?
Kick ass.
Yeah, and then
Yes.
so you got both Pietros in those, in those movies there too. So
true, very true. Yeah, I mean,
crazy.
so I saw a few people speculate on that, and I don't know if that was necessarily the intent, but it did line up pretty perfectly.
I feel like I feel like that was it.
There was
It had
no
to be.
way.
funny.
There
I
was
just don't
no
know
way
why they
that
want to
wasn't
shout out a property they don't own.
because they can. Because they have the
It's just
opportunity.
funny.
and
Because
they
both
just
of those
can.
actors were in.
No, I know.
Yeah.
I just don't. I guess I just didn't think because kick-ass was a big term in the '90s though too. Like everyone would be like kick-ass on their
Exactly.
skateboards too. So like,
That's
That's-
what I knew it.
there's probably a
That's
double.
how
It's
they-
probably a double entendre
Double,
type
yeah.
thing. Yeah. Okay. So let me ask you guys this then, because I kind of think that we sort of confirmed at least my suspicion, and I'm sure some of you guys had it too. I'm not a genius, but I guess I said it first on the podcast that maybe she's getting too caught up and trying too hard to keep the storylines in play. And now that the Vision is questioning her, it's getting her all scrambled. And like we learned, she doesn't quite know how this happened. She just knows
Yeah.
she's in control, and for some reason she wants to maintain it. So maybe that's why we had like that 1998 film with that 2004 film. Like, what's going on
Yeah.
here? Does she even know
That's
anymore?
fair.
Yeah.
Is
And
is
we got-
Deeper connections. than
is,
I
is
am.
the train coming off the tracks a little bit? You know?
Well, yeah, we saw that too with some of the residents there. They're stuck in a loop. They're frozen. She's kind of
Yeah.
losing control, and we can see it. Yeah, and,
Yeah, that was
with the
crazy.
tear.
Yeah,
you know.
exactly.
Yeah, that was weird.
It was
that
weird.
was so
that
weird.
was
It was
some,
weird.
that was some Twilight Zone Pleasantville shit, right?
It
there.
was.
Which I
I
thought
was
actually
like-
really worked.
Yeah,
I thought it worked too.
that's the part that I was talking about. Like, yes, this is the stuff that's hidden underneath like the beauty facade
Yeah.
of the sitcom
Mhm.
world.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. No, man. I mean, so jump in, guys. I feel like Dom and I have been kind of monopolizing this part, but like now that we kind of like crack the code on that, Ewan, where's your head at with all that?
There is so much, and like I feel like when you mentioned the whole not being in control, but like kind of it's kind of getting confusing, and I feel like when they add in little details, it's kind of like Disney's just going to be like, oh yeah, we did that on purpose. It's like
Yeah.
people, because so many people have so many theories about everything the MCU comes out. They see one little thing in the background of a trailer. They're like, oh, what's that? Oh, this is connected to this. It was connected to this. This was 5 years ago. There's actually like, there's so much. So I feel like Disney's just like, yeah, we've done that before.
Mhm.
But yeah, I feel like she's kind of losing control. And that whole like freezing the people stuff, that was so weird. And I was just like, what are they getting on with that? And like when Vision was like looking at them, and obviously you mentioned the tear. I remember just watching and being like, but I feel like that means something, and there's something, and they said that she's only in control of parts of it.
Yeah.
Because
So-
and they're trapped.
Yeah.
They're trapped, man. And you know what I thought too? It's like that's very physical. Having to do that loop for so long, her arm must be in such pain, but she can't stop. He's picking that box up in the background, bending, picking it up.
Mhm.
Like those
Yeah.
are like middle-aged people. That's got to take a toll. Like I got so into it this week that I was thinking like
Yeah.
practically.
Are you
Mhm.
sure they didn't just put the footage on a loop?
Well, see, I think no, because when Vision touches them in the head and they start to freak out and break down and cry,
Okay.
the guy said last week, right? Something along the lines of like, "I'm in pain, help me,
Right.
save
Yeah.
me."
Yeah.
And then-
Yeah.
that was.
I feel
that
like
was
when-
probably a take.
I feel like.
So are you saying a take
in
in regards to like the show's already pre-recorded? The sitcom that Wanda's producing is pre-recorded, or what do you mean by that?
No, like you're talking the specific scene when he like unfreezes the guy, right?
Yeah, what we're talking about
In the
is
office?
we're talking about right now like how these people are trapped and they're sort of like you guys know what I'm trying to say, right? How like
Yeah,
I
when
think
she's
so.
she's
Yeah.
I think she's crying not only just because her mind and her thoughts on her own, but because there's a physical pain to
Yeah.
that. Her
Oh,
arm
yeah,
keeps
oh,
going
yeah.
back
Oh,
and forth,
yeah.
back and
Sure.
forth. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah,
so I was
sure.
starting to think practically in regards to like that deep into these side characters. The extras I was
The
thinking about
extras,
in this
yeah.
episode, but yet I still agree with Dom though in his original sentiment. Like something didn't quite work though, and it
Yeah.
hasn't quite worked
Yeah.
on this show.
Ah.
But I've never thought this hard either at the same time. So this whole show's fucking
Yeah.
weird, man.
Yeah.
To be
It
honest
is-
with you.
I say
I
that
don't
to
normally
say,
like the
but it's
curse,
weird.
I just wanted to
Really
say first
weird.
off, fuck all you guys for pointing out something that I didn't realize first. I just want to say because I'm that egotistical. I need to take
Wow,
credit.
okay.
I need to notice everything first, and you guys all notice something first. God damn it, the freaking movie theater trope. Like
I
that
mean-
was such a dead
bro,
giveaway
you-
as far as the merging.
Remember
And I
you
should've
texted
known-
me that earlier before the show? You texted me that? So
I didn't text you that.
come on, man. That was
He's trying to. He
I'm
just
trying to help
offered
you
you a
out.
life vest, man.
I'm trying to help
What are you
you.
talking about?
He just offered you a life
trying to
vest,
help
man. You
you,
had
man.
you had an out and you didn't take it.
No, I don't care. No. Because
I respect
here's the thing.
it.
Here's the thing. It's a bit because guess what? I'm egotistical, but I always give credit where credit is due. But that was my
True.
way of doing
That's
it.
fair.
So I just
Okay.
wanted to make you guys aware of
I
that
feel you.
because that is actually really cool, and it adds another layer to this already
It does.
mysterious and venereal episode, and
It
that's
does.
cool. That being said, it doesn't solve any of my problems with the story. I'm sorry.
That's true too.
I had to say it was the
Understood.
Half-Blood. It was literally the Half-Blood Prince to the last 3 episodes, which of course are going to be gangbusters. Like that, like they have to pull out all the stops for these last 3, and we're
They
finally
do.
We
They
could
have to
hope.
answer. They have to
I just-
answer some questions.
Yeah.
They
My-
really
my-
they
got some
so
my
explaining
ultimate
to
my
do.
ultimate comparison though, as far as my final point on where this falls in the story, is to that episode 6 of Watchmen. Do any of you remember what the 6th episode of Watchmen was?
Was that the
haven't seen it.
1921? Was that like the crazy, like the plane crashing in the middle of the town and stuff? The historic event, the Wall Street, the Black Wall Street.
That was the
that
pilot. That was the pilot.
the pilot? But I
It
thought
is-
they revisited that as well
Not
later on in
quite,
the season.
Not quite.
I forget.
Sort
That
of.
was so long ago. That's my guess.
It was episode 6, This Extraordinary Being, which was when Regina King took the nostalgia pills and flashed back to Louis Gossett Jr.'s
Oh,
past
right.
and experienced what he went through and discovered that that he is not only her great grandfather but was hooded justice too. And it answered a tremendous question, and it was a filler episode. But that is the example of a perfect filler episode where it adds more to the context of the story while also serving to fill in the extra space you need before you can start to wrap things up.
Yeah, it enriches the
This
character.
was not their what's it called. This was not their This Extraordinary Being. This was not that. This
So-
was a simple, hey, let's just have fun and literally just be distracting while we hint at certain things to come.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
So you agree with Dom, in other words.
Well, it's so weird because like there's so much that I agree with him on, but I still like it doesn't seem that he's too positive on the episode. Whereas I
Oh
gave
no,
it like
I enjoyed
four-
the episode.
Okay, good.
I'm just saying this is ranking lower than a lot of the other episodes.
Because I feel like I'm with AJ in regards to like I see your guys' points, but do you guys not think that sort of Vision waking up? I forget her name in the car. What's her name?
Agnes.
Agnes in the
yeah.
car, and sort of getting that you died, but you
Catherine
didn't
Hahn.
die. You didn't think that was insane? An
Oh, it
insane
was insane.
storyline.
Well, I
The
was
problem
like,
is,
well, that's
the problem is that
crazy.
it didn't. I'll tell you the other big problem that I had. It didn't tell me anything that I didn't already know.
You
Yeah.
didn't think,
Everything that happened in this episode,
Yes,
I'm like, yeah,
but we're not watching
Okay.
it through that lens. We're watching it through the Vision's lens, trying to get out of a situation he's
Right.
in. So
Yeah.
that was new to him and
That's
to
a
the
new.
story.
It was new to him.
That's
Yeah,
fair.
right.
Yeah.
I will admit.
I
That's
see
fair.
everyone's
no,
points
but,
here.
no, but here's the thing.
Yeah.
That's why that was my favorite part because that was the thing I wasn't expecting, and I'm like, okay,
Mm.
this is cool. It just wasn't enough to save the overall episode for me.
Okay,
It
then
was those little
Okay.
individual moments, but usually the individual moments have to add it to something, and this just was not it. It worked last episode. It was not the case this episode at all.
then you don't think that Vision sort of saying, "Screw it, I'm going to break through and live my own
No,
life."
I
was
said
a huge
that
plot
whole part
moment.
was
Wow.
great. I'm saying I enjoyed it.
But
are
you said
putting
it's still
words in
filler
my
though.
mouth.
But you're
I don't-
saying
The
it's
whole
don't-
episode is filler. That does
I
not
don't
make
get
it
that.
good.
yeah.
don't-
That's what I don't get. I don't
Okay,
see how.
okay,
like,
first-
Filler is not an inherently negative term.
Okay,
True.
what do you consider filler?
I
Let's
consider most of
establish
television.
that.
I consider most of television episodes filler.
Okay.
I'm talking episodes that do not directly contribute to the main overall story in a meaningful way, which is so little of television in general, which I understand makes me a harsh critic by nature, but it's just simple facts. When you acknowledge how much of television in general does not actually contribute to the story. And we make up for it with terms like, it fleshes out the characters.
Okay, that's what I was going to
explore so much more. It lets us get to know the world so much more. It's
do you feel like a filler, if you're establishing character relationships, you're establishing, character depth, that's filler to you?
Not if it's in the first couple of episodes. That's the only time when it's not filler. By that point, you should be using the character development to flesh out and further the story. And last episode they were.
I feel like that's what they did.
They were.
In this
episode was more so just action, and it's like cool, but it's just action. It's action without enough reaction.
See, I don't know. I can't disagree with you more than that. With that.
Every time, this is our fate now, AJ. Every time we have you on, you're gonna severely disagree with me.
Yeah. All right, so AJ, why do you disagree then?
Because I just feel like there was a lot that happened in this episode, especially with Vision, with him realizing he kind of already had been realizing that something was wrong, but like the whole thing where he, steps outside the shield and, that whole thing. Also even with Monica, we kind of see some depth with her as well, because they said every time she goes in and out, her molecules change, and that I feel like that's leading up to her having powers, and things like that. So, and also the stuff with Pietro, the kids, we're learning that they have powers, and just all things like that. I can't call this episode filler. I just can't.
No, me neither.
I can't.
Me neither.
It progressed the story too much.
I agree. We set up for the third arc. We set up for the finale with these last 2 episodes.
Yeah.
We have 3 episodes left.
3 episodes left.
No, I know, but I'm saying these last 2 episodes that we just had set up for this finale now. This 3 episodes.
I'm worried that we have one more episode set up.
Because if we're not in the third act next week, then we have problems.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
That was the biggest
we
worry.
know we're ending the sitcoms because they basically rushed and merged the 90s and 2000s, so they're just skipping ahead to the 2010s next episode.
Well, if we get a Big Bang Theory episode, I'm sorry, Dom, you're going to have to find someone else to be on this show. I hate that show.
It's Modern Family. It's Modern Family.
Okay, I'll take it.
They might do.
I don't want to see.
I know they're doing Modern Family. It's from the trailers.
I don't want to see them bring in fucking Tony Stark and pretend to be Sheldon or something like that. Like that better not be the cameo.
They're not doing that.
That'd be terrible.
First off, they can't afford Robert Downey Jr.
They'd pay him $10 million to be on for 10 minutes.
What Elizabeth Olsen did say that there's going to be a Luke Skywalker type cameo in this series, in this season.
Doctor Strange.
Or either Doctor Strange or Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
Either way, Elizabeth Olsen shouldn't have said that.
At this point, I would believe
she shouldn't have said that, but she did.
I honestly would believe for Captain Marvel at this point. They've been dropping her name a lot.
As much as I last week said, I don't think it should be.
It's
funny. I'll discuss later on in the show where kind of like the 3 circles of my MCU and where Phase 4 is going to go and how they like all kind of encircle around the center. But
yeah, if it's Captain Marvel, people are going to be pissed.
Oh, they're going to be so mad.
Why?
Because that's definitely not equivalent to Luke Skywalker.
No, just the easy answer. It's a
Doctor Strange is the easy answer.
Both of them.
It's because they've been name dropping her throughout, so that's probably it.
Yeah, I personally would prefer if Captain Marvel showed up over Doctor Strange. I can't stand Doctor Strange unless arguing with other people. That's the only time I find Doctor Strange interesting.
That's
it's
true
a waste
too.
of Cumberbatch's talent.
I agree with
Larson
that too.
at least has a chance to grow.
You're right.
Hopefully they do more with her character. I will agree.
Also, unlike a lot of people, I like Captain Marvel.
I like Captain Marvel as well.
It's all right.
I do. I know a lot of people that don't, but I do as well.
It's fine.
So, as far as cameos, I'm never going to blame an actor for doing their job. That's the last thing I'll say about that.
Yeah.
They're paid to publicize the shit they're in.
I agree. No, I understand. I think sometimes they go a little too far and like spread spoiler, like obvious things that they shouldn't have said, because then it's like everyone's just going to narrow it down to like the 2 most obvious possibilities, aka the people we just spoke about. But anyways, we can't control that. But the last thing I think we can't control before we jump out of the positives and negatives is this goddamn character Hayward, man. I need everyone's take on Hayward.
I don't
General
like him.
Ross Stanton.
God, I don't.
General Ross Stanton. I said it from day one.
Yeah, I just feel like he's the person that we're supposed to hate. I think that's intentional.
Sure.
Because of his attitude towards our main characters and things like that. So I feel like he's gonna get what's coming to him eventually, because they always do. But
He almost did in this.
he
episode.
almost did this
He's
episode,
close.
and I was just like, come on, you know.
I agree. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I think that was the majority of people, because that's kind of what that character is set up for. So
It's just like I've seen that. I don't want to call it a trope, but I've seen that motif before.
yes,
And I understand it. I know the purpose it serves.
Yes.
We have a lot of time to fill, and it's a way to create tension in the outside world.
Mhm.
It's just like this has got to be the worst damn execution of that motif I've ever seen. It's so
Really?
paper thin. It's so boring. There's nothing that whole like Monica Rambeau and him beefing. I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't feel real. I'm just watching it because you wrote it, but nothing about that outside world feels organic. Aside from Kat Dennings, just like I think she plays a great computer whiz, but like other than that, like Jimmy Woo, we kind of like spoke about him last week. He's just there hanging out. He
I
messed
like
some
him.
guy up.
He's cool.
I think
But-
this is a good show for him to shine. Honestly, Jimmy
Yeah.
Woo. But
That's
anyway,
true.
I'm gonna let you finish. Sorry.
I was
Yeah,
just
go
gonna say. I mean, I just like. Man, I thought Godzilla King of the Monsters was the worst sort of version of that motif, and this is worse than that. I hate to say it.
You're going to use that
This
as
is
your
worse
new
than that.
as your new go-to reference point? Seriously?
Yeah, I think it has
You're
to
going
be.
to
at
make
this
it
point.
Godzilla from King of the Monsters. That's your point. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
but if it's
I can
my
see
point
the
is-
correlation though. I can see it.
it's worse than that. I mean, I don't know.
I can
What do you guys
see,
think
I
about
can see the
Hayward?
correlation.
Well,
Yeah.
It's like I don't hate the guy. I know a lot of people are like, yeah, he's fine. Whereas like, if Spider-Man comes in, that'd be weird. But
very weird.
But like he doesn't bother me really when he's on screen. But it's also like when he's there, the show is going hate him.
Mhm.
Like it's
Yeah.
kind of just telling you. It's just like this guy's an asshole. Don't like him. Like, oh, he
Yeah.
sends a drone in to shoot Wanda and the kids hate him. Like, it's just stuff
Mhm.
like that. But when he's on the screen, I don't really mind. And I mean, Monica Rambeau's really interesting here. So seeing them beef is just, it's entertaining for me.
Yeah.
I
Same here.
didn't even know his name until you were like, I forgot his name until you guys said it again. So like,
Yeah.
is he like forgettable? Yeah, but it's like, is he the true villain? Is Wanda the true villain? So there's a lot there where I'm like, you know what? He's okay. Like I don't
Yeah.
hate him by any means, but he's not the best either.
I feel like if he wasn't there, it would be a lot more stale. It would be
I agree.
flat. Very
I
flat.
What does that say? Because they're using like one of the oldest tricks in the book.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, if I can jump in and add my 2 cents, it adds something when, I had to be reminded by you, AJ, of what his name was. I didn't even remember his name. I
Yep.
just kept
I had to look it up today because I couldn't remember either.
General Ross Stanton.
None of us
General
did.
Ross Stanton, because all of it feels just like it's a divulgence. Like I've heard a lot of rumors. It's pretty safe to assume General Ross is going to be like the temporary big bad because he's going to be like acting out now in Nick Fury's absence with sword and shit. And there's going to be a coming together of those two organizations. Like that's going to factor into how like the big bad of Phase 4 will go. Like I'm thinking long term here. Like that's the only thing that's keeping me invested at this point because taking this shit week to week is painful. I'm not gonna lie. I finally reached that breaking point. I needed
Even
this
though it's
shit.
getting better.
I'm spoiled. That's the problem. I'm spoiled by getting a movie every couple of months and having enough.
That's what
that's enough. That's
That's
enough
what I'm
to hold me
saying.
over. No.
We are. We are.
Now I gotta watch this shit every single week for the whole year. Like, come on. Like,
Okay, so let me ask you this: if they dropped the whole season at once, would you feel like you would enjoy it more?
binge it in a day, and it would depend on each show. That's the problem. You never know until it drops. But this is a show that I can definitively say I would have wanted all at once.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask you.
I was saying that at the start when the first ones dropped. I was saying that, but now after like episode 4, I was like, then I wanted week to week. I wish that like I was talking to someone at work about this just because like he watches. We talk about all nerdy shit all the time, but it's great. But for like the people who got to like review the episodes early, they got episodes 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah,
Whereas everyone else got 1 and 2. I
That's
wish
correct.
that they had dropped 1, 2, and 3, and then did the rest of them week to week. I think it would have made it better, and people would have been more positive about those first. Like the reviews for the first bit overall would have been more positive because, I mean, in my opinion. I mean, I still really like those first two, but episode 3 was definitely better. And it felt like when we first got those, it was like, oh, can we just see the rest? And then after 4, it's like, okay, I think that it's like, okay, I can do week by week. That's just what I think.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
Streaming services and all these companies, what they need to do is they need to install, I think it's the most essential piece that is missing from their production. And it's going to sound ridiculous, but it is true. They need watchers. They need binge watchers, and they need episode week to week watchers, and they need to pace that shit out and see how it feels and see which one is a better pace and which one they think consumers will enjoy better. And they need to have test
streaming. They're going to do binging.
That's how they need to determine the future of their release content. Netflix just says fuck it with everything. They don't care. They're passionate.
They don't care.
Netflix,
they don't have to care anymore.
Yeah.
But every other streaming service, Disney, Warner Brothers, Amazon. Well, Warner Brothers does a week to week, but HBO still knows what they're doing for the most part. So
HBO.
Disney, Amazon, really, certain Hulu shows too. I would say. Yeah. They need to figure their shit out.
So if you were,
the only one I want to see full sending with the drops all at once. Everyone else, nah, play catch up. You're not with the big boys just yet.
So if you were on that job, Dom, what would you be? The week to week watcher or the binge watcher? I'm curious to know.
I mean, binge watcher, because I don't have time to do that shit week to week. That's exactly why I'm complaining.
You're getting paid though. That's your job, man.
Doesn't matter. They'll pay me the same amount for the one screening as opposed to the 9. They'll still find a way to chisel me. They'll do it like, okay, $900 now or $100 week to week. I'm like, fuck you, $900 now.
I think everybody's gonna be the binge watcher.
Damn, that's a dark worldview, but I can't say it's wrong.
It's true.
Right.
It's absolutely true.
Damn. All right, guys.
All
well,
right. Was that enough for positives and negatives? Was
Unless,
that negative enough to end this one?
I got one more negative. I'll kind of cover it quickly, but the end. I think like my biggest negative with it was just the ending felt so abrupt. I think that, and I've heard that too. I've heard other people say that. Just because like we had, it kind of went on, and then when she started expanding it, it was like okay. And then we, of course, Vision started going back in, and then we got Darcy in there. Done. It's just like what? And then the "Please Stand By" thing. And if you're on Twitter, people are just like, "I fucking hate Please Stand By."
Yeah, please.
Saying, like,
that's a whole meme now.
I know that should be a whole ass meme out of itself. I'm like,
it is. It is.
Yeah.
The
Like,
cliffhanger endings are back.
It ended, and I was just like, "Why? Why did it have to end?"
And the thing about the episode, it was kind of a little slower towards the beginning, and then the third act, third act came, and things started getting really intense, and then you're like, "Please stand by." It's over already.
Exactly. That's why.
They fool you. They make you think these shits are 37 and 40 minutes long, and
10 minutes of credits. 10 minutes of credits.
10 minutes at the end. And you got the 2 at the and you got like the minute at the beginning, so it's 11 minutes.
Yeah.
So the episodes are only like 30, maybe a little less. As far as that goes, they're like
this one was I think just barely 30.
Yeah,
which is
Yeah, we just covered Malcolm and Marie, and like the credits were 10 times shorter.
Yeah.
Like, they said hour 46. They meant hour 46.
Yeah.
Crazy. All right, guys. Well, Dom, let's move into
Moving on to the MVP section. This is the quick section before we stop off to connections to the greater overall comic book universe, where we crown an aspect of the episode that we love the most, that we think deserves to win the MVP episode. This could be an actor, a character, somebody involved with the behind the scenes of the show, the director, the producer, or certain aspects of the show. Chris once said the episode score was his MVP overall. Anything relating to something such as that. I will go first because I just want to make mine quick, like the person who is my MVP, that being Quicksilver. Oh, see what I did there? Pretty good, right? No, this guy's great. I miss Evan Peters. He's the best. He's the best. I missed him. He fit the role like a glove. Was so good. The quick flash. He got the zombie flash too, like Vision did.
Yeah.
Goddamn, that shit works every single time. More horror movies need to make good use of that.
Right.
And no, who am I kidding? It'll probably just get overdone there. But yeah, and he was awesome. And like kind of him bonding with Speed, like kind of seeing 2 speedsters. I don't know. It was cool. It gave me some Incredibles vibes. I'm like, oh man, It's
That's
such
what that reminded me of.
torn apart in some way, but I'm like, this is actually kind of pretty cool, you know. And I'm kind of getting used to like this weirdo little family, and they're like, and this is the episode, of course, where they all dress up in like the costumes that are homages to their old costumes. And I'm like, oh man, I'm starting to get a little bit nostalgic.
It's nostalgic,
So,
yeah.
Pietro Maximoff, that is the one aspect from last episode that really held up the best as far as this one goes. The best speedster ever. I'm sorry. Sorry, Grant Gustin.
Ezra Miller. What about Ezra Miller?
Yeah,
we don't talk about him.
I'm pretty sure.
How he hasn't been canceled yet. I'm amazed.
I feel like he is. I feel like he low-key is a little bit.
He
I
was when
actually
he
think
slapped that girl.
his anger management ends in 20 minutes, and I'm pretty sure the reporters are going to ask him about that. But anyways, yeah, he's a stand-up guy. So with that being said, my MVP is, and it's funny that Dom chose to sort of tell you guys how the segment works by referencing when I chose music, because I'm picking the theme song of the sitcom. It was so 90s. It just felt like that bubble that sort of like Disney had those kind of like theme songs for their children's shows. Obviously, it was so Malcolm in the Middle. It wasn't even funny.
Yeah.
Just like the whole sequence, the music, the way the characters acted, the title cards, everything about that, but specifically the score and the song itself was just perfect.
Ant-Man and the Wasp composer Christoph Beck for that, because he is the music composer for this show.
I thought he did a great job. I really enjoyed that. So yeah, AJ or Ewan, jump in with your MVPs.
I'll let AJ go first because I still really need to think.
Okay. Mine might not be a typical choice, but I'm gonna say Jimmy Woo. This episode, he did some butt kicking, and I wasn't expecting that at all.
He actually did something other than crack a one-liner.
He did, and
for what?
something that I really was thinking about with this episode, in the show overall. Like we kind of got these three characters that are kind of outcasts. Monica Rambeau is from a movie that not a whole lot of MCU fans like, Captain Marvel, and then we got Jimmy Woo, one of the least great, one of the least great characters in the MCU, and then we have Darcy, like the nerdy best friend from Thor, you know, kind of forgotten about. So we kind of get these outcasts as our main character, and they make it work. So Jimmy Woo is my MVP.
All right.
Respect. His smile is infectious.
He looks like his face is the perfect mix between awkward and awkwardly needing to take a shit from nervousness, and I could totally be here.
Wow. That's
all right. That's one way to put it.
It's the perfect blending of those two, and it just works.
I'll take your word for it, man.
I don't know how to respond to that. So I'm just gonna
me neither.
What is your MVP?
Ooh, like I might have to say Quicksilver or Pietro too. Like I might have to agree, just because like when I really think of the episode, not only was there that really cool shot early on where they had the foreground and the background in focus. I don't know if you guys caught that, but when he was sleeping on the couch, kids were in focus, and he was too. And you could see, I forget what it's called. They put like a certain piece over the camera, so you could see the little blur. That was cool. But then, like when he was, and then like when he was running around with, I think it's Tommy. I could correct me if I'm wrong. Stealing the candy, breaking the jack-o'-lanterns. Like I thought that was cool. And then, as Luke Review said in the chat, like he started questioning Wanda, and it got kind of weird. And then of course we had like as you said, the whole like what we called before dead vision, or like the ghost flashback thing where we saw the bullets, and I was like, whoa, where did that come from? So I think, and I love Evan Peters so much. Like I love X-Men Days of Future Past so much. It's just a phenomenal movie. And Quicksilver has been one of the most memorable parts of any of the X-Men movies, and just seeing him here, really interested. So I have to say he's my MVP.
It's still it raises a lot of questions.
He fits like
that he's here.
But I will say the one thing that made me be like, whoa, okay, so this is the part where I'm like, yeah, I feel like there should be focusing more on this, but like was the quick dead flash where it's like, whoa, okay, so she clearly sees that this is, even though she's pretending because she's part of it, she clearly knows this is not her brother Quicksilver.
Oh yeah,
she knows this is a different Quicksilver, but she still saw him as dead. That raises that.
Yeah, that's a lot of questions right there.
That's kind of confusing.
Different questions as far as just what is going on with her specifically. And the other reason why I think the vision sequence was important was the lead up, not to the shield, because I kind of saw that coming, but to Agnes and just everything that she said in that scene alone.
What's gonna happen with her? I don't even know.
Basically all confirmed to be playing Agatha Harkness, who is a Doctor Strange villain. And especially because I think they just announced like yesterday that like they cast one of the villains for Doctor Strange too, but it's not like anybody we know. It's not like it's not Nightmare, it's not Mephisto, it's not anything like that. So
to be determined.
To be determined. But
gotcha.
He has a name. It just I don't remember what it is off the top of my head. But so, gentlemen, those are the MVP awards for this episode. And now we get to the last section, and arguably the most important section, but honestly, this section kind of goes all over the place just depending on what mood we're in, which is the greater connection to the wider overall comic book canon and the greater MCU in general. So, this episode famously referenced Captain Marvel even more. Does it seem like it's hinting toward the possibility that she could appear in this show and be the surprise cameo over the previously suspected Dr. Stephen Strange? To be determined overall.
Yes.
But I wanted to talk about something that I'm actually really happy about, which again is something that I've talked about in the past couple of weeks. I feel like I have not been able to shut up about, which is obviously the connections to the Young Avengers. That being Wanda's children, Billy and Tommy. First off, the one thing I can say is that I'm a big fan of how the episode is focusing kind of on their relationship, and they're really focusing this on, okay, Wanda's entire existence is tied into this fantasy. What is this fantasy going to give her that is good, that is going to make her want to stay here no matter what? And the idea of using children as a manipulation like that and still fooling us into thinking that it's just like, yeah, it's just two regular kids and they have superpowers. They're like a little bit smarter and a little bit more self-aware. Like, that's actually kind of brilliant as far as that goes. And so seeing kind of the connection from there and seeing kind of like how they come to build into the characters that like you have visualized of these characters in the comics. Because like these characters were very distinct characters in the comics. I remember each one of the Young Avengers like had some sort of trauma, some sort of problem. A lot of them were drug addicts. A lot of them were secret closeted gay. Like trying to come out, even in the mid 2000s, was extremely, extremely troublesome at the time, obviously. But what's it called? But going back to the original point, obviously, is that kind of how they're setting that up and also mixing and meshing that and pulling bits and pieces of that from that comic in with the previously announced Scarlet Witch potential lead up to whatever House of M, mixed with the Vision storyline from 2015. I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head. It's really fascinating, and that to me is kind of the driving force behind this story as far as seeing that. Because like I said, these are the comics I fuck with overall. These are my comics. So
mind-bendy stuff.
Yes, I love that shit, and I'm digging the Pleasantville vibe. That is to me the absolute best part about the show overall. Obviously, we know the MCU is going to go in all different sorts of shapes and sizes and directions with its phases. I've grouped them into 3 semicircles that I wanted to like picture in our head, like picture that each of these squares is a circle, right? So in the Talkin TV section, I've classified that as the multiverse section, which will obviously encompass of this show, Spider-Man, Loki, Doctor Strange, and potentially 1 or 2 other things that come out in the future. Then in your box, AJ, we've got the space section, which is going to be Captain Marvel 2.
The cosmics.
Pretty much. Captain Marvel 2.
I got the stars.
That's what I thought.
Invasion, and certain elements of other shows too. I think they're going to move forward with the Nova Corps episode.
Mm-hmm.
And then in your bubble, Ewan, you've got the Earth section, which is going to be all the Earthbound. So Black Widow, Falcon and Winter Soldier. Oh, AJ, Eternals would also be in your bubble too. So
yeah.
Black Widow, Falcon and Winter Soldier, Moon Knight, She-Hulk,
Shang-Chi, right?
Shang-Chi, yes. What's it called? Oh crap! What else?
Morbius.
No, Morbius is not MCU. Blade, yes.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, Blade, yes.
Blade, right.
Fantastic Four is to be determined, but Fantastic Four, the reason why I think they're saving that last is because Fantastic Four could be the thing that unifies all 3 bubbles. It could universe, Earth, space, and multiverse.
Okay.
All
it's the crossover.
True.
X-Men are fantastic.
X-Men have not been announced. They are for Phase 5. I think that Phase 4, I honestly, this is where I truly have come to as far as Phase 4 and where it's going to go. This will be kind of, this factors in, is I think Phase 4 is going to building to the unification of the multiverse. And then by Phase 5, you will see them going across like different dimensions in order to battle like one threat that threatens all of them. This could be where Doctor Doom comes in. This could be where Galactus comes in. But I feel it could be Kang. It could be Kang too, because that's the other thing. We are getting because remember we are getting him in Ant-Man and the Wasp. But I still don't know. I have a bad feeling because look, I have a bad feeling they're going to Ultron him and only use him for the 1 movie, which would be that would suck because
there's so much to explore.
Kang is one of the biggest Marvel villains there is, and especially with his connections directly to the Fantastic Four. Like if they used him to bring in the Fantastic Four, that would be cool.
Yeah,
that would actually
100%.
be pretty cool overall. If
Dude.
I could just kind of speculate as far as that goes. I miss this. I miss speculating about this kind of shit.
To be honest, everything you're saying gets me so much more excited than anything that happened in phase 1 through 3. I mean, it just seems like so I think it's something that happens when sort of like, I'm a music guy. I'll use a music analogy here. It's kind of like when an artist knows that they can rely on their income finally, that they have that fan base that is ride or die with them, then they can start experimenting and getting really creative and take those risks that earlier on they couldn't because they couldn't justify a failure. The MCU can justify 90 failures with how big Endgame and Infinity War alone were. So it's like now we're getting to, like you said, sort of like the mind-bending aspects of the comics, and now
this is the shit that I fuck with.
I had to sit through some real nonsense for 3 phases, but I'm in now. Like I'm all in. Like this gets me tight. To be honest.
I'm gonna quote Pacino for the 90th time from Godfather 3. I don't care. Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. I had it. I had my first 3 phases of the MCU. Those will always be my first 3 phases of the MCU.
As
this is
everyone else's first 3 phases.
I can't believe I'm saying this. It's all building to this. I'm way more invested now in everything they're doing on Disney Plus than anything they have going on with the movie.
True.
The only movies that I'm interested in going forward, I want to watch Shang-Chi. I want to watch Spider-Man. I want to watch Black Panther. I want to watch Guardians 3. I want to watch Thor. That's it.
Not Black Widow?
No, I don't give a shit about Black Widow.
Because Black Widow to me seems to be like the worst parts of phases 1 through 3 lingering.
Pretty much. Dude, you nailed it.
It's like when you
and it's shot by the John Wick people. So like, yeah, the action will be cool. I'm like, I don't
AJ
want to
might
see
be able to speak to this. Ewan's a little younger, but Ewan, there will come a point in your life when you don't see a friend for a long time. You go and live some life experience, and you're all back home for the first time in like a few years. The It movie, the start of it, chapter 2, really. And you realize like some people have gotten smarter and progressed further, and others haven't, and it's okay. But like, you don't really. You're glad you don't have to see them every day anymore. And that's how I feel about Black Widow.
Where was this on the It Chapter 2 podcast?
What
the hell?
It's hey, look, I'm AJ. Have you ever had that experience, AJ?
Oh yeah, for sure, yeah.
Exactly. Now, do you agree with my analogy to Black Widow?
I don't know about that, but I'm not. I'm kind of with you with that. I'm not as excited for Black Widow either.
You know what? Like when it was
Especially
first announced,
delays.
I was like, or I'll let you finish.
I was just saying, especially because of the delays.
Yeah, like when it was first announced, it's like I didn't really care that. Like I still cared because I'm like, hey, Black Widow's sick, one of my favorite probably superheroes in general. And then it like kept getting delayed, but I think maybe it's just the anticipation of like, hey, a new MCU movie, like, and it keeps getting pushed. So I'm just like, hey, I want to see a new one. But I do like really enjoy Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow too. So I'm just like, I'm interested, Florence Pugh's in it. Like there's a lot that interests me about it. I get if people aren't just because, well, obviously she's dead, but like I get it's before. So I understand both sides, but I just say I am excited for it.
Yeah.
My thing with Black Widow is that, like Chris said, it is taking place between Civil War and Infinity War, and I'm like, okay, I don't care, honestly. I think it was just the fact of, okay, I think they had like one more movie on Scarlett's contract.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say it's contractual.
And Scarlett was like, yeah, I want to be done. And they're like, cool, do this, and you're good. And
it's nothing against her. Her contributions to the first 3 phases were awesome.
She's one of my favorite characters from the first
I just feel like what we're at least seeing with WandaVision, granted it's a little messy, and also it's hard to speak to it since we haven't finished it yet. It's just far more ambitious than anything we've really gotten.
Very
ambitious.
ambitious.
But it's like the failure thing you mentioned before.
Yeah, exactly. I think we're all kind of there, it seems. But
yeah.
Hey,
I feel like it feels contractual. How they kind of like been fumbling it around, delays, and okay, is it gonna be released on Disney Plus? Is it gonna be in theaters? Okay, now it's definitely gonna be on theaters, in theaters only. But half the theaters aren't open, and it's just like it feels like doesn't even matter what placement it is.
The problem for right now is that the studios are still trying to go based off of projections of like when the vaccine will be made fully available. And the problem is there's still not enough data that's conclusive there. That being said, they're still sticking to the most recent set of dates that they have set, they are sticking to for right now. And they have made it very clear, yes, Black Widow is sticking to a theatrical slate. So with that being said, like
summer, right?
May. Black Widow was always going to be in May.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the ironic thing is that Black Widow to me should be a direct to Disney Plus dump. Like of all the things that would That to me is the direct to Disney Plus dump in order to keep incentivizing people. That's the free one because they're charging for Raya. And we'll
that's weird.
That's
That
so
is a
crazy.
whole nother podcast.
And we'll see like how that strategy bodes for other movies because clearly I thought they'd learned their lesson from
Dude,
Mulan.
from Mulan.
Clearly
They made a
not.
killing off of Mulan.
Yeah.
They made a lot. Yeah, they made a lot of money off Mulan.
So apparently that
Still haven't
worked,
seen
so.
it.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I feel like they're gonna make a lot of money on Raya too.
Yeah, like, but I feel like if they had like weirdly enough, I feel like if Black Widow's off the slate and they just did for 2021, if for some miracle these movies came out, Shang-Chi was their spring movie, Spider-Man was their summer movie, and Eternals was their fall movie. Perfect. Boom. Slam dunk. That's a slam dunk MCU year just as far as movies go. Leave the TV stuff to what it is, you know. We'll see, obviously.
TV calendar stacked.
But I think that Black Widow in May, Shang-Chi is their summer movie, Eternals in November, and Spider-Man at Christmas. First of all, there's no way Spider-Man keeps that Christmas release date. No effing
not
way.
a chance. Like as much as I wanted to, not happening.
I don't feel like it
And
will.
the worst part is that won't be a Disney Plus drop because the Spider-Man movies can't be on Disney Plus because they're Sony.
True.
So, like, that's overkill. Plus all the then
Be
you add all the
2022.
that sounds like overkill. You know?
Yeah.
Especially when they said they were going to go back to 2 movies a year.
It's going to be interesting. That's
Yeah,
for sure.
For sure. Yeah.
Time will tell.
Yeah.
Well, guys, this was awesome. Dom and I got to go order some dinner. It's been
Yes,
quite a
we are
while.
hungry.
And this conversation was like pretty lively. So I definitely worked up
It's
an
a
appetite.
lot of fun.
Yeah.
actually. We didn't talk necessarily a lot about the episode, I feel like, but we talked a lot about its implications. And it was a good conversation nevertheless. It was good. It was good having you guys on.
Yeah,
Thank
see,
you for
again, I
having me.
just couldn't disagree more with what you just said. I feel like we talked a lot about the episode. It
man.
must be just where we're both at
just
in
full of
regards to watching
contradictions
this.
tonight.
No, we're just
Maybe
kept differing
You need
opinions. That's
pizza or
fine.
something.
Yeah, I definitely need to
I
eat.
think
That's
it
for
at
sure.
certain points of the
I'm seeing
episode.
like 4 of you right now, Ewan. So,
Yeah, get you something. Get you
yeah,
something, man.
exactly. But guys, thank you so much. This was awesome.
Thank you.
And if the people wanted to catch you guys on the internet, where can they find you, AJ?
Yeah, man, you can find me on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Letterboxd, Twitch. I got all that stuff. AJ Reacts 2 all across the board. I talk about TV, movies, music, all kinds of stuff like that. So if you're into that, come check me out.
Beautiful, Ewan. What about you, man?
And for me, I'm on YouTube, Instagram, Letterboxd, Twitter, Music Board, which I recommend for all YouTube Music Board. It's like Letterboxd for music, and
okay.
it's all at Ewan Review. Well, like all besides Instagram, besides YouTube, all at Ewan Reviews, one word. So it's easy there. And on YouTube, I do weekly WandaVision reviews. Even on here, I still post a review. I do videos every single day. Every single day, so it's fun. I'm 15 away from 500. Really hoping to get there. But talking about movies, reactions to movies and music, ranking albums, all stuff like that. And yes, thank you guys once again. It was a lot of fun tonight. Very lively and energetic.
Yes.
Ewan, real quick, be honest. Did your parents name you after Ewan McGregor, the actor who portrayed Obi-Wan Kenobi in the Star Wars prequels?
No, but I really wish they did.
Oh man, how awesome would it have been?
That was so
Just,
cool.
just say yes. Just say yes.
Oh man,
So many
Oh,
situations like that
it
tonight.
shows the kid
Yes.
still has a lot to learn as far as being in the wild, wild west of YouTube. But people, once again, thank you for tuning in to another fantastic episode of the Talkin TV WandaVision recap. We got 3 episodes left of this, then we got a break, and then we're going to transition into Falcon and Winter Soldier, which will be a lot shorter. That one they supposedly will stick to their 6-week schedule, but we shall see. Where can you find us? What are we doing here? We're on YouTube 3 times a week, live streaming, giving you guys content specifically for you, stuff that you can enjoy. We did a Tenet watch along, live reaction. It was our first time doing it. It's growing like wildfire. It's our next like big hitter.
The thumbnail looks like this.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little bit scared of how fast this video is going. It's gonna be our next community top 10. And it was a lot of fun, and it was a lot of work getting it up, but it was worth it in the long run. I also put up a measly little top 10 bottom movies in order to go along with Malcolm and Marie, because oops, my bad. I thought that was gonna be way bigger than it was, but it's still a great top 10 listen. You guys should check it out. It's all there on the YouTube channel. If you click on this channel that you're watching right now, if you click the subscribe button and you click the bell next to it, you'll be helping us out just by joining us in our community and getting notified every time we put up content exclusively for you. Once again, if you leave a comment, you could let us know what type of stuff you want us to do in the future. Seriously, Chris, that's the one thing I'm a little bit disappointed on. That I've put out the suggestion at the end of every single video, and the chat, the community, our community, has not once chipped in with a new idea for us to do. And
Maybe
I'm
that
honestly a
means
little
we're-
bit disappointed in them.
Maybe
I'm
that means
calling
we're
you-
doing something right.
I'm calling you out, chat. I'm calling you out. Give us new ideas to do. I'm running out of stuff to do. I might not want to do a top 10 list every single time I have to put up a solo piece of content. Give me some ideas for stuff to do.
We're here to make
do.
your day better.
Yes. We are here to take your ideas and put them up on the screen.
Yeah, that's true. And, speaking of, putting things up on the screen, clearly we have these nice custom boxes for
Yes.
AJ and Ewan. So I want to ask you guys live, as I've asked every single guest who's been on this sort of week-to-week recap show, do you guys want to join us in 2 weeks for the finale so I can make another set of custom boxes for you guys? We're going to have a huge panel. It's going to be
How many
badass,
people is it
8
up to
p.m.
now?
Eastern
I think
Standard
they
Time.
make it like 9, right?
They'd make it like 6 or 7.
Yeah, because like
So AJ and Ewan, do you guys want to join us on the spot?
7. That puts us up
Yes,
to
sir.
7. Plus us 9.
Cool.
Yeah.
And if you actually want to say no, just text me afterwards and be like, bro, I have plans. Like, I just want to be nice on the live. I'll be like, it's all good. But Ewan, what about you, man?
I would love to. I just know that I'm like guaranteed to work. Like I got work off tonight, but they would have scheduled me. So as much as I would love to, and like if I somehow like get that and I have to tell you, I definitely will. I'd love to, but for now, I'm just gonna say I can't. Sorry, but
No,
if
give me your
anything
boss's
changes-
number. I'm gonna make this happen
Yeah,
for you.
we better be on. You better be on, dude.
You
You're
better be on, dude.
I was about to say,
We're not taking no for an
you're
answer.
the kid champion right now. That's officially what I'm crowning you. You're the kid champion. You and the kid
Oh,
champion.
Dude, Ewan, it's great again to meet you tonight. AJ, this was
Yeah, you too.
absolute blast. Their links will be in the description below.
And our links you can find as always on Instagram and Facebook at Talkin TV, or as you can see right there, down in that little box right there at Talkin TV Podcast, people. We'll see you guys next week for episode 7 of WandaVision. Thank you once again all for tuning in. 12 seasons in a short film. And as always, watch more fucking movies.